Before the age of the train, the world moved at a much slower pace. It was a world dictated by the strength of a horse and the direction of the wind. For thousands of years, transportation had not changed very much. If you wanted to send a message, it traveled only as fast as the horse carrying it. If you wanted to move goods from one town to another, you relied on carts pulled by animals. These journeys were long and often dangerous. Roads were little more than dirt tracks, turning to mud in the rain and dust in the sun. Moving heavy materials like coal or stone was incredibly difficult and expensive. This limited the growth of industries and kept communities isolated from one another. Imagine trying to build a city. Every single brick, every piece of wood and all the food for the workers would have to be brought in by horse-drawn wagons. A journey that takes us a few hours today could have taken days or even weeks. This slow movement of people and goods was a major barrier. It meant that trade was mostly local. A farmer could only sell his produce as far as his horse could travel in a day. News from distant lands was old by the time it arrived. The world felt vast and disconnected. People often lived and died in the same small village where they were born, with little knowledge of the world beyond their immediate surroundings. The need for a faster, more reliable way to connect places was growing stronger every day. The limitations were not just on land. While ships could carry large loads, they were confined to rivers and coastlines. Inland transportation was the real challenge. Canals were built in some places, which helped, but they were expensive to construct and could freeze in the winter. The Industrial Revolution was beginning to stir, with new factories hungry for raw materials like coal and cotton. These factories also produced goods that needed to be sent to markets far and wide. The existing transportation systems were like a bottleneck, holding back the immense potential of this new industrial age. A breakthrough was needed. Something powerful enough to haul heavy loads over long distances, regardless of the weather. This growing demand for speed and power set the stage for a revolution. Inventors and engineers began dreaming of a new kind of power, one not reliant on muscle or wind. They looked to the power of steam, which was already being used to pump water out of mines. What if, they wondered, this same power could be used to turn wheels? What if you could create a horse made of iron, fed by fire and water that never tired? This was the question that would unlock the future of transportation. It was the question that would lead to the invention of the steam locomotive and change the face of our world forever. The stage was set for the arrival of the train. The story of the train begins not with a grand passenger express, but in the dark and dirty world of coal mines. The challenge was simple: how to move heavy loads of coal from the mine to a nearby canal or port. Early solutions involved putting wagons on wooden or iron rails, pulled by horses. This made the work easier, but the real breakthrough came from harnessing the power of steam. The first steam engines were large, stationary machines. The genius was in making them small and powerful enough to move themselves. An inventor named Richard Trevithick was a key pioneer. In 1804, he built the first steam locomotive to run on rails, successfully hauling 10 tons of iron and 70 men over nearly 10 miles in Wales. It was a monumental achievement, but his machine was too heavy and broke the brittle iron rails of the time. While Trevithick had proven the concept, it was another man, George Stephenson, who was often called the father of railways. Stephenson was an engineer who worked in coal mines and understood the practical challenges. He improved upon earlier designs, building his first locomotive, the Blucher, in 1814. He focused not just on the engine, but on the entire system: the locomotive, the rails, and the bridges. He understood that all the parts had to work together perfectly. Stephenson's key contribution was his persistence and his vision for a public railway, a line that would carry not just goods, but passengers as well. He was a practical man who solved real-world problems. The true moment of triumph for Stephenson came in 1829 at the Raynal Trials. A competition was held to find the best locomotive for the new Liverpool and Manchester Railway. Several engines competed, but Stephenson's entry, named the Rocket, was the clear winner. It was faster, more reliable, and more powerful than any of its rivals, reaching a then astonishing speed of 30 miles per hour. The Rocket incorporated several key innovations, like a multi-tube boiler, which greatly improved its efficiency. Its success proved beyond doubt that steam locomotives were the future of land transport. It was a spectacle that captured the public's imagination and silenced the many skeptics. The success of the rocket was the spark that ignited the railway boom. It demonstrated that a machine could be built to travel faster than any horse, while pulling a heavy load. This was a turning point in human history. The idea of the iron horse was no longer a dream. It was a reality, chugging and steaming its way into the future. The creation of this first truly effective locomotive by innovators like Trevithick and Stephenson laid the groundwork for a network of steel that would soon crisscross the globe, connecting cities, countries, and continents in a way that had never before been possible. The age of the train had truly begun. The first major public railway to use steam locomotives was the Stockton and Darlington Railway in northern England, which opened in 1825. While its primary purpose was to transport coal, it also carried passengers in a specially designed coach, making it a pioneer in public transit. However, it was the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, opened in 1830, that truly showcased the potential of this new technology. It was the first railway designed to connect two major cities carrying both passengers and raw materials between the industrial hub of Manchester and the bustling port of Liverpool. Its immediate success triggered a period known as railway mania. Suddenly everyone wanted to invest in railways. It was the great technological and financial craze of its time. This railway fever quickly spread from Britain to the rest of the world. The United States, a vast and growing nation, saw the railway as the perfect tool to conquer its immense distances. The first railroads were built on the East Coast in the 1830s, connecting nearby cities. Soon, ambitious plans were made to push westward. The construction of the first transcontinental railroad, completed in 1869, was a monumental feat of engineering. It linked the eastern and western coasts of the country, reducing a journey of many months by wagon train to a little over a week. This single railway line fundamentally united the country, encouraging settlement of the West and transforming the American economy. Across Europe, nations eagerly adopted the new technology to connect their industrial centers and capitals. Belgium, a newly independent and industrializing nation, was one of the first in continental Europe to build a comprehensive state-funded railway network. In Germany, railways helped to unify a collection of separate states into a powerful nation. In India, the British built an extensive network, one of the largest in the world, primarily to transport raw materials and move troops, but it also ended up connecting the vast subcontinent in an unprecedented way. From the frozen plains of Russia to the mountains of South America, tracks were being laid, overcoming incredible natural obstacles with bridges, tunnels, and sheer human effort. The spread of railways was more than just the laying of track, it was the spread of a new way of life. It standardized time as cities had to coordinate their clocks for train schedules, leading to the creation of time zones. It changed landscapes, with tracks cutting the farths on fields, tunnels boring through mountains, and grand new stations rising in the hearts of cities. These early railways were the arteries of a new global system. They moved coal to factories, cotton to mills, and manufactured goods to consumers. They also moved people, ideas, and ambitions, shrinking the world and weaving humanity together with threads of steel. The early days of train travel were an adventure, but they were not always comfortable or safe. The first locomotives were noisy, dirty machines that belched smoke and hot cinders. Carriages were little more than wooden boxes on wheels, with hard benches and no protection from the weather. Accidents, caused by broken rails, boiler explosions, or simple human error, were common. To win the public's trust and expand their business, railway companies had to make their trains faster, safer, and more reliable. This led to a continuous wave of innovation that transformed the railway experience over the decades. The drive for improvement was constant, fueled by competition and the demands of a growing industrial society. One of the biggest areas of improvement was speed. Engineers designed more powerful locomotives with larger boilers and more efficient engines. They streamlined the shape of trains to reduce air resistance. Track quality was also crucial. Iron rails were replaced with much stronger and more durable steel rails, which could handle heavier, faster trains without braking. Better signaling systems were developed to manage the growing traffic on the lines. Early systems were simple flags or balls hoisted on poles. These were replaced by semaphore signals, and later by electric light signals, which allowed train dispatchers to safely coordinate the movement of many trains on the same network, preventing collisions. Safety was a paramount concern. The invention of the air brake by George Westinghouse in 1869 was a revolutionary development. Before this, Brakes had to be applied manually, on each car, by a brakeman, a slow and dangerous process. The air brake allowed the locomotive driver to apply the brakes on all the cars simultaneously, giving them much greater control and dramatically reducing stopping distances. Another key safety improvement was the automatic coupler, developed by Eli Janney. This replaced the dangerous link and pin system, which required a worker to stand between the cars to connect them, a task that caused thousands of injuries and deaths. These innovations made railway work and travel significantly safer. Comfort also became a priority as passenger travel grew. The rough Spartan carriages of the early days were replaced with more luxurious ones. Upholstered seats, better suspension for a smoother ride, and heating systems for winter travel became common. The invention of the dining car and the sleeping car in the latter half of the 19th century transformed long-distance travel. Suddenly, a journey across a continent was no longer a grueling ordeal, but a comfortable, even glamorous experience. These continuous improvements in speed, safety, and comfort cemented the train's position as the dominant form of land transportation for over a century. The classic image of a train is the steam locomotive, a powerful, breathing machine with a plume of white steam and dark smoke trailing behind it. For more than a century, steam was the undisputed king of the rails. These engines worked by burning coal or wood to boil water in a large boiler, creating high-pressure steam. This steam was then piped into cylinders, where it pushed pistons back and forth. This motion was transferred through rods to the wheels, propelling the train forward. Steam locomotives were marvels of mechanical engineering, but honestly, they were also inefficient. A great deal of the energy produced by the burning fuel was lost as heat and smoke, and they required constant supplies of water and coal. The dawn of the 20th century brought a new challenger: electricity. The first electric trains drew power from an overhead line, or a third rail running alongside the track. This electricity powered electric motors connected to the wheels. Compared to steam engines, electric trains were a world apart. They were cleaner, with no smoke or soot, making them ideal for underground tunnels in busy cities. They were also much quieter and could accelerate and decelerate more quickly. Furthermore, they were more efficient, converting a higher percentage of their energy into motion. This meant they were cheaper to run, especially on routes with heavy traffic where the cost of building the electrical infrastructure could be justified. The transition from steam to new power sources took many decades. Diesel-electric locomotives became a popular intermediate step. These trains used a large diesel engine to run a generator, which then produced electricity to power electric motors on the wheels. They combined the flexibility of not needing overhead lines with the cleaner, more efficient operation of electric motors. By the mid-20th century, in many parts of the world, diesel and electric locomotives had almost completely replaced the old steam engines, marking the end of a romantic and powerful era in railway history. Today, modern trains are technological wonders that bear little resemblance to their steam-powered ancestors. High-speed trains, like Japan's Shinkansen or France's TGV, are the pinnacle of this evolution. These are electric trains with incredibly powerful motors and aerodynamic designs that allow them to travel at speeds well over 200 miles per hour. They run on dedicated, precision-engineered tracks with gentle curves and no-level crossings. The journey from George Stephenson's rocket, chugging along at 30 miles per hour, to a modern high-speed train, gliding silently and smoothly across the landscape, represents an incredible leap in technology and a testament to our ongoing quest for speed and efficiency. The arrival of the train was like injecting adrenaline into the heart of the global economy. Before railways, businesses were, really constrained by geography. A factory could only be built near its source of raw materials or near a navigable waterway. Trains absolutely shattered these limitations. Suddenly, a factory could be located in a city with a large workforce, and the raw materials could be brought in by rail from hundreds of miles away. Likewise, the finished products could be distributed across the entire country, reaching new markets and new customers. This ability to move heavy goods cheaply and quickly over long distances was the fuel for the Industrial Revolution's massive expansion. Trains created entirely new industries and millions of jobs. The construction of the railways themselves was a massive undertaking, employing huge numbers of laborers, engineers, and surveyors. Once built, the railways needed drivers, firemen, conductors, signalmen, and maintenance workers. The demand for iron and steel for rails and locomotives spurred the growth of the mining and steel industries. Cities that became major railway hubs, like Chicago in the United States, grew at an explosive rate. They became centers of commerce, where goods from all over the country and the world were bought, sold, and exchanged. The railway station often became the new center of town, a bustling gateway to the world. For ordinary people, the impact was just as profound. Travel, once a luxury reserved for the wealthy, became accessible to the masses. For the first time, people could afford to visit relatives in distant towns, take vacations to the seaside, or move to a new city in search of a better job. This newfound mobility changed society's structure. It allowed for the growth of suburbs, as people could live outside the crowded city center and commute to work by train. It also helped to spread ideas and culture, breaking down the isolation of rural communities and creating a more unified national identity. The world simply felt smaller and more connected. The railway also transformed agriculture. Farmers were no longer limited to selling their crops at the local market. They could now ship their produce by train to hungry cities hundreds of miles away. This led to the specialization of agriculture, with certain regions focusing on growing the crops best suited to their climate. The development of refrigerated rail cars, known as reefers, was another major innovation. It allowed perishable goods like meat, fruit, and dairy products to be transported over long distances without spoiling. This dramatically improved the variety and quality of food available to people living in cities, changing the way entire nations ate. The railway brought incredible progress, but its arrival was not without a dark side. The construction of these vast networks often came at a great human cost. The work was grueling and dangerous, and thousands of laborers, many of them poor immigrants, died in accidents, from disease, or from exhaustion while blasting tunnels through mountains and laying track across harsh landscapes. The railways were also a powerful tool of colonization and military expansion. In places like the American West and Africa, railways enabled governments to move troops quickly, control territory, and displace indigenous populations who stood in the path of the tracks. The iron horse was a symbol of progress for some, but a force of disruption and conquest for others. The environmental impact was also significant. Steam locomotives were notorious polluters, burning massive quantities of coal and releasing thick clouds of smoke and soot into the atmosphere. In a world before environmental regulations, railway lines and industrial areas in cities were often choked with a permanent haze. The construction of the railways also carved up the landscape. Forests were cleared for timber to make railway ties. Hills were leveled, and valleys were filled. The railway lines created physical barriers that could disrupt wildlife habitats and migration patterns. The noise and vibration of passing trains were a new form of pollution that communities had to learn to live with. On the positive side, trains had a profound effect on unifying societies and creating a shared sense of time and space. Before railways, every town had its own local time, based on the position of the sun. This was a nightmare for creating train schedules. To solve this, railway companies pushed for the adoption of standardized time zones. This simple change had a huge impact, synchronizing the clocks of entire nations and creating the modern, structured sense of time we live with today. Railways also fostered a sense of national identity by connecting disparate regions and allowing people, newspapers, and goods to move freely between them, creating a shared culture and economy. Furthermore, the railway was a democratizing force. While early travel had different classes of service, the very existence of cheap mass transportation opened up the world for millions of people who had never traveled more than a few miles from home. It sparked the modern tourism industry, allowing working-class families to take day trips or holidays. It enabled migration on a massive scale, allowing people to escape poverty or persecution and seek new opportunities far from their birthplace. The railway, for all its faults, was a powerful engine of social change, breaking down old barriers and forging new connections between people. Just as the steam locomotive was once the cutting edge of technology, today's engineers are pushing the boundaries of what a train can be. The quest for ever greater speed and efficiency has led to the development of remarkable new technologies. The most prominent of these is the high-speed rail we see today. But the next step is already being tested: magnetic levitation, or maglev. Maglev trains do not have wheels. Instead, they use powerful electromagnets to float above a special guideway. With no friction from wheels on a track, these trains can achieve incredible speeds with surprising silence and smoothness. A leading example of this technology is the Shanghai Maglev, the world's first commercial high-speed maglev line. It connects the city's airport to its outskirts, reaching a top speed of 268 miles per hour and completing the 19-mile journey in just over 7 minutes. Imagine traveling between major cities at speeds that rival those of airplanes, but departing from and arriving in convenient city centers. Japan is currently building an even more advanced maglev line, the Chuo Shinkansen, which is designed to travel at over 300 miles per hour. This technology promises to revolutionize inner-city travel, making it faster and more energy efficient than ever before. Another major area of innovation is automation. Just as we are seeing the development of self-driving cars, we are also seeing the rise of automated trains. Many modern metro systems around the world already use driverless trains, which are controlled by sophisticated computer systems. These automated systems can operate trains more efficiently, running them closer together to increase capacity and reducing energy consumption by optimizing acceleration and braking. As this technology matures, we may see it applied to mainline freight and passenger services, improving safety by removing the potential for human error and making the entire rail network more responsive and reliable. Beyond speed and automation, the future of trains is also about data and connectivity. Smart trains will be equipped with countless sensors that monitor every aspect of their operation in real time, from wheel wear to engine temperature. This data can be used to predict maintenance needs before a part fails, preventing delays and improving safety. For passengers, the journey will become more seamless and connected. High-speed Wi-Fi, real-time journey information, and integrated ticketing systems that connect trains with other forms of public transport will become standard. The train of the future will not just be a mode of transport, but a smart, connected space. From the first puff of steam to the silent glide of a maglev, the train has been on an incredible journey for over 2 centuries. It has shrunk our world, built our cities, and fueled our economies. It changed the very way we perceive time and distance. While the rise of the automobile and the airplane in the 20th century seemed to push the train into the background, it is now experiencing a powerful resurgence. In an age of congested highways and growing concerns about climate change, the fundamental advantages of the railway are more relevant than ever before. The train is not a relic of the past, it is a vital part of our sustainable future. The biggest reason for the train's renewed importance is its environmental credentials. When it comes to moving large numbers of people or heavy amounts of freight, trains are one of the most energy-efficient forms of transportation we have. An electric train powered by renewable energy sources, like wind or solar, produces zero direct emissions. Even diesel trains are more fuel-efficient per ton-mile than trucks. Shifting more passengers and cargo from roads and air onto rails is one of the most effective strategies we have for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, fighting air pollution in our cities, and decreasing our dependence on fossil fuels. High-speed rail offers a compelling alternative to short-haul flights. Journeys between cities that are a few hundred miles apart can often be completed faster by train when you factor in travel to the airport, security checks, and boarding times. Train stations are almost always located in the city center, making the total journey more convenient. By developing modern, fast, and comfortable high-speed rail networks, countries can reduce air traffic on busy domestic routes, freeing up airport capacity and significantly cutting carbon emissions. The train offers a way to stay connected without paying such a high environmental price. The story of the train is a story of human ingenuity. It is a story about overcoming limitations and connecting people. Today, as we face the great challenges of the 21st century, from climate change to urbanization, the train remains a powerful solution. It offers a path toward faster, safer, and cleaner transportation. By investing in modern rail infrastructure, from efficient urban transit systems to cross-country high-speed lines, we are not just building on a legacy of the past, we are laying the tracks for a smarter, more sustainable, and more connected world for generations to come. The journey of the Iron Horse is far from over.